I don't remember what people said, but there was like potentially like a feminist critique or a version where like people were sort of uptight about sex and they didn't think that belonged,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
was it all of those things or
like
what?
you're selling punk rock, you're selling women's
Okay.
bodies, this and that, like it's I don't know,
Yeah.
up to I remember hearing, there was this one actually feminist punk band, and they firmly believe that porn uh caused, domestic, violent, like,
Uh-huh.
violence against women. They were like those kinds of feminists. Being like a pro sex worker feminist was not like a thing back then.
It's so
You
weird
know,
to hear that because now like it's the
I
exact
know.
opposite, which is probably, I mean, I think you're a big part of why people have changed their
Yeah.
attitude
And
about that.
look, I was never gonna, I had to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
like to me, I was sort of, like closed off and confused and awkward. And, and Burning Angel, like, made me more confident. And even from the very first, even though my first thing that I did naked on the internet, I wasn't even naked. I was just topless. Like, and even just doing my first topless shoot, like I felt a part of me come alive, and I thought this was a very good, positive, empowering thing.
Hmm.
And and that's okay that other people didn't see it that way.
Sure.
I wasn't going to try to convince someone. And look, a lot of the pornography that was out at the time did not uh you know um empower women the
Yeah.
way,
Right. Right.
so I get it, so yeah, I mean, it really tore people apart. Some people just got nasty, like, like it was weird. I wasn't used to, I was always like everyone's cheerleader in punk rock, like I was like, I went to every show. I was always like, yay, like I knew the words to everybody's
Yeah.
songs, like I was everybody's like biggest fan. I think like all the, kind of old school punk bands or whatever, like knew that, knew me as, as the girl that like I was everybody's biggest fan. I loved the
Hmm.
scene. I loved all the bands. I believed in everything that everyone said. Um, so I wasn't used to being the subject of hate. I
Right.
got
Right.
along with everyone. I was always the one that was friends with everyone in all the different like spectrums of the scene, like I was friends with the hardcore kids and the metal kids and the emo kids and like, and like the indie rock kid. I went to every single kind of show,
Hmm.
whatever it was, like I sort of like, and so yeah, I was sort of like the object of a lot of hate. And it was strange for
Were you
me.
surprised by that?
I I was hurt. um I guess because I always supported all of my friends' projects, whether I liked them or not,
Yeah.
whether I thought the band was good or bad, I was going to support them, and I was going to be there. And like, so I just kind of thought this was like an unspoken rule in our little punk rock community that like, if somebody does something, you, you stand behind it and
Sure.
you support it because it's part of punk rock, but it's just, and I did things very similarly to my friends who were in like these small bands and whatever, but it just everything's different when it's porn. But
Yeah, it's like you
I
can
really,
literally take a shit on stage and hit somebody over the head with a mic stand, and that's totally cool. But if you show your
yeah,
tits, oh, well, now we
legend.
got a problem.
Yeah, a handful of naked pictures. I mean, I remember the first band, we had an interview with was an old school Long Island hardcore band called Kill Your Idols.
Hmm.
And from what I remember, I heard it through like a friend, so I don't know exactly. I don't want to like say things that isn't true, but they got like thrown off of a show because they were like supporting.
I believe it. Yeah. It was a
Like,
different world back then.
it was crazy, yeah. And I wasn't used to being. That was like when a message board started to be a thing,
Yeah.
you know. And I remember seeing a picture of me on a message board, and everybody had something to say, and some people were being nasty. Like people were like, she's so ugly, anything from
Right.
that to like, it's wrong, it's not punk, it's this. But it became this like very, very, very long active thread on one of those early message boards. So I actually remember the person like um in charge of the message board,
Do you remember what board it was?
God, what was it? Was it I think it was the Trust Kill message board.
Okay.
No,
Trust
or
Kill or
was it,
Bridge 9 was pretty big back then
yeah, it
too.
was one of those.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there were pictures of me on there. And this was like so back in the, I was like, how did somebody even get
Yeah.
a photo from the website and
Right.
post it there? And I'm like, is that legal?
You can
Like,
do that?
that was like, what, the technology? Like, how did they even know how to cut and paste my image to insult me? You know?
It's one of those interesting moments where you're like, oh, I thought the punk scene was different than the rest of the world. And in those moments you realize actually it's not different. Like in some ways it is, but in a lot of the bad ways it's not.
Yeah. But something I did learn, I remember, the day it launched, and I'll never forget it. There was a party at my house because it was April 20th, 2002, 420.
Mm-hmm.
There was a party at my house and bands were playing in the basement. And yeah, one of the bands playing, they were, a female fronted band. And she gave a whole speech about how bad pornography is my basement.
No, like, how did she end up playing?
She was looking at me when she said it, and it really sucked. This was one of a band I really loved and respected. I'm not, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm not going to say them. Like I said, I don't think the girl was wrong, and she was a person who was a victim of a lot of, sexual abuse growing up. So she was very outspoken about it. And
it's a valid point of view, even if you disagree.
It's a valid point of view. And I was not here to take away any of her pain, and I, whatever, like I always was behind her on movements. To be fair, I lived in a house with like 8 guys, and one of the guys in the house, he booked the shows. And I didn't really have much to do with booking the shows. I just, walked downstairs and went to them. So I'm not entirely sure if she knew I lived there. I don't know, because she's just, she was just going to the show she was booked for. So whatever. But I do remember she gave a whole speech that day, the day the website launched, about how bad pornography is and how it is the reason that women, suffered violence, Sure. I don't want to be too graphic,
Yeah.
And I was like, is this directed at me? I'm like, what's going on here? Everyone was asking me about it, and it was 420. So there were like these vegan, pop brownies going around that I ate, and which was, probably a bad idea, but, and yeah, so everything was like kind of heightened because of that. And I was everywhere I went in the party, and there's a lot of people, there was like bands playing in the basement. There was like people everywhere, all over the house. And everywhere I went, people are like cornering me to talk to me about my feelings on like punk and porn, and like, you have to understand, like, I didn't go to LA and do anything. This was like, I took topless photos that like my friend, Mitch, he borrowed a friend's, do we even call it a digital camera? He borrowed a camera from his friend's mom. Oh, my
back then you called it a digital camera because
it had the discs, the floppy discs in it. The early stages of digital camera. We had a friend and be like, he's rich. He probably has a camera. This is like, I don't know, our friend who had kind of I don't know. Our friend had a camera, so he was really balling, and he borrowed the camera and took the pictures of it. So this wasn't like, and then we basically did that with a handful of other girls who were friends of ours. So I didn't have a lot to say about it, for me I wasn't prepared to like speak about pornography and what this meant and how it applies to feminism. It was just things I didn't really think through, because getting this website up was such a clusterfuck, we kept setting dates for it and they weren't happening. And, so like, I think I was just so like in the zone of getting this website on the internet and doing whatever I can, which was not much because I wasn't a programmer or anything, but a lot of just like trying to figure out whatever I could do. So yeah, I kind of didn't think about the fact that, oh, this is porn and it might piss people off. I was just so busy with and excited launching this project. But Yeah, I mean, I'll always remember. And I remember I went to my room and I kind of like shut the door. I was like, it was a house, it had a basement and then it had like 3 stories and I lived in like the top. Well, actually, there was an attic. I didn't live in the attic. I lived in whatever. Anyway, I ran upstairs to my room and I just shut the door and I was like panicking. And I was like, all right, I either need to uh, move and take this down and pretend it never happened, or I need to make this the greatest thing that ever existed. I knew at that moment it was like sink or swim. And also spending so many years as a person who was sort of always in the background or
Hmm.
in the crowd of the industry, um, being seeing just seeing everybody get so torn and loud over this. I was like, this is a powerful thing. This is more powerful than I thought it would be.
Hmm.
And even though this is like to a group of like a few hundred people, to me that was the world. Like
Sure.
we didn't have Instagram or things back then where you could see like there's only a couple hundred people that care about it. Like
But it means
these
they're
couple
people that you
hundred
knew, or at
these
least a
were
lot of
these
them.
couple hundred people were my world.
Right.
That was the whole world to me as far as I was concerned. And I was like, yeah, this is really powerful and I need to take this and really do it. Like I saw some kind of glimmering, potential of something that could be really, really huge. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I knew I made a choice at that moment. Like this is the choice I'm taking. And I never looked back. So, yeah, and that was in April 20th, 2002. So it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, I found this quote when I was doing research. I thought you might think it's funny. This is from Gavin McInnes, who a lot of people know now as the founder of the Proud Boys, but he was
Right. I
also
know. Let's remember the good things Gavin did before he became a Nazi, I guess.
right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the co-founders of Vice, and he's
Yeah.
old
Which
school
was
punk guy and stuff.
a very, cool magazine that did a lot of important things, I think.
So, I agree, but this is the
But now he's
quote.
a Nazi, so
Yes.
so we don't
This is the
I don't know where
quote
that
from
came from.
him.
I wasn't expecting that. It's really took a left turn somewhere. Well,
Yeah, yeah, that was a wild ride.
yeah.
So
Anyway,
his
okay. So an early
his
quote from someone before he was a Nazi.
yes, before that, people don't want punk porn. There's just no market for it because that's not what porn is about. Porn is not cool. So obviously that
Oh,
did not
okay.
age well.
How funny. I was about to think that maybe he said something good, but I guess he always picked on me. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. No, he didn't say anything nice.
Yeah. He always made me a fashion don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those were pretty funny though.
They were funny. It was actually an honor.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
I randomly remember he did apologize to me one day.
hmm.
All right, anyway, fuck that guy. He's a Nazi. Fuck
Well,
anything he did.